Team 3 studied Chapter 9, Managing Conflicts Productively. This chapter gave us an overview of what conflict is, how it can be beneficial yet detrimental to the group, and how to manage it. That brings us to our first question: what is conflict? Conflict occurs when discordant ideas or feelings expressed are experienced between two interdependent parties. Some conflict can become heated, while others may pass with little notice. If conflict is handled well, it can improve performance within a group. Our textbook also mentioned myths that are common among conflict. Myth 1 states that conflict is harmful and should be avoided. In reality, conflict can actually help your members understand an issue more clearly, improve group decisions, increase involvement among members, and increase cohesiveness. Myth 2 states that conflict represents a misunderstanding or breakdown in communication. In reality, even though some conflict stems from misunderstandings, not all do. Conflict can occur when individuals understand each other perfectly, but disagree on what is being discussed. Many conflicts occur over differences in values, goals, methods of achieving goals, and limited resources. Finally, Myth 3 states conflict can be resolved if parties are willing to discuss the issues. So, in reality, that doesn't automatically guarantee the problem is resolved if it's discussed among members. For instance, take abortion. It will never be resolved because there are always going to be pro-choice people and people that are pro-life. Therefore, conflict over basic values and goals may never be resolvable. Shifting our focus on conflict and to how it is actually managed, it requires an understanding of the different types of conflict that you are likely to encounter in your groups. The 3 types of conflict mentioned are task conflict, relational conflict, and process conflict. Task conflict is conflict resulting from disagreements over ideas, information, reasoning, or evidence. This stems from the clashing of ideas, meanings, issues, or other matters relevant to the task. If task conflict is managed well, it will allow group members to challenge and evaluate ideas, proposals, evidence, and reasoning. Relational conflict originates from interpersonal power clashes or likes and dislikes unrelated to the group's task. Personalities, learning styles, priorities, openness to experience, or perspectives of age or culture all contribute to reasons a group will clash. Relational is very detrimental to the group and is found to be the main reason why a member might decide to leave a group. Stress, dissatisfaction, frustration, and being burnt out are all associated with relational conflict. Process conflict is conflict over how to do something and members' contributions to the group. Members may clash over how to make their decisions, how to best spend their time, distribution of work, and how to best run meetings. High levels of process conflict can easily become personal, especially if it involves fairness of member contributions and damage the group so bad that it may never be able to recover.
Conflict types and computer-mediated communication. Small groups often use a blend of face-to-face interaction and computer-mediated communication. However, studies comparing the type of conflict in CMC and FTF groups have found differences between them. Comparing conflict types of CMC and FTF groups. CMC groups engage in more inflammatory, profane, and negative communication than FTF groups. CMC groups that display relational and task conflict over procedures often lessen more over time than FTF groups. Higher levels of task conflict over procedures in CMC groups are normally related to members initially not knowing how to use the technology. However, members of CMC groups are better able to manage conflict once they become competent users of the technology. Overcoming CMC-related conflict. CMC groups do not follow the same pattern of conflict types as FTF groups, but they often reach comparable levels. Groups whose members primarily connect using computers should consider making time for social development between members, meeting face-to-face on occasion, especially early on, to create social and procedural norms that are acceptable to the group, and establishing group support systems to help during online problem-solving discussions.
Introduction to the 5 styles. There are 5 conflict management styles mentioned in our Chapter 9 titled Managing Conflicts Productively. The 5 strategies are avoidance, accommodation, competition, compromise, and collaboration. Avoidance. Avoidance occurs when a group member, any, chooses not to disagree or to bring up a conflicting side. Ultimately, this is downplaying the importance of his or her own needs and the needs of others in the group. Running from the issue would be another simple way to put it. When members fight about the issue or person causing the issue, they often avoid further disagreement with each other. Reassurance to get back to the group task or end goal. An example that was listed in the book is Roger. He says nothing, accepts Mary's statement even though he disagrees. So he stands on the other side of the fence, but to avoid the problem, he just goes right along with what she says. Accommodation. Accommodation occurs when one person gives into the other side without arguing or defending their case. The book example was Roger again, and he says, I'd really like to keep it open, but if there's no money, I guess there's nothing else we can do. So my take from this one is kind of giving up easy. You're just letting it go. One person tells you a fact from the other side, and you just don't come up with any defending statements. You just let it go. Competition would be the next. Conflict or fussing style that displays a preference for coming out ahead, winning in the conflict at the expense of the opposing side. The example for this one was, I won't accept that. We can't let the students down that way. Cut something else to get the money. And of course you can tell in my voice that there's explanation points in that, because that's kind of the dog-eat-dog example. Someone always has to win. There has to be a winner. Compromise is a disagreement that occurs in this style still, but rather than arguing and someone needing to win, both sides come to a mutual understanding that leads to a solution. Each side gives a little bit to gain a little bit. An example, I would accept keeping it open just until 6:30 if you could cut some money from another program. So I would accept this if you could do this. Collaboration. In this style, both parties come together and work as a unit to create a desired solution that pleases everyone or both parties. An example, I understand that it's necessary to contain costs. It's also important to serve evening students. Is there some way we can provide them food service without increasing costs? So I understand this, and I know that it's important to do this. But do you think we could meet in the middle? Could we collaborate and come up with the best solution where both sides benefit? Productive skills for communication. On this PowerPoint, I have a little image off to the right side, and it says all of the skills in the attachment to the right are wonderful assets to positive communication. So accommodating and collaborating, compromising's in the middle, avoiding and competing. So the two top examples, accommodating and collaborating, are the two that we desire to use. That's the two strategies that are the best. Compromising is in the middle because it literally means that you come to the middle. You compromise. Both parties give a little bit. And then the bottom two, avoiding and competing, those are the two that you want to avoid because it just results in a negative ending.
Expressing disagreement ethically. When expressing disagreement, the how is just as important as the what. This distinction is significant, no matter how valid your disagreement is. If you express it in a tactless or arrogant way, you hurt your chance of benefiting the group. A legitimate concern, the what, can be expressed so insensitively, the how, that even a rational group member becomes defensive rather than receptive to what you have to say. How to disagree productively. Express your disagreement. 1. Remember that failure to express doubts and disagreements deprives the group of potentially valuable information and reasoning. Express disagreement in a timely way. 1. Don't wait until the deadline is near to speak. Express disagreements with sensitivity towards others. 1. Disagree with the idea, but do not criticize the person. 2. Use neutral, not emotionally charged language. 3. Be respectful of different faith needs of members. React to disagreement with spirit of inquiry, not defensiveness. 1. Ask for criticism of your ideas and opinions. 2. Show you are interested in the other's opinion by listening actively and sincerely. And 3. Clarify misunderstandings that may have occurred.
Maximizing your chances to influence the group. This section gives 3 suggestions that will help you maximize your influence when you express your disagreement. The first one, make sure your arguments are of high quality. This is the single most important thing that you can do. Although there's several factors, including the defendant's expertise, attractiveness, and job status, affect that person's status within the group. Only the quality of the deviant's argument directly influences the other members' attitude change. This means you must think the problem through carefully and be willing to listen to objections others may have. The second suggestion is make sure your arguments are consistent. This is especially important during the latter part of a discussion. These authors recommend, however, that a minority subgroup not be so consistent that it appears rigid and unable to understand others' views. The third suggestion is, if you are a member of a subgroup, make sure all the subgroup members publicly agree with each other. It's always best to not publicly dispute or disagree, but otherwise talk about disagreements behind closed doors, so you don't alienate other group members in public. However, coalitions containing members who disagree with you are less influential than coalitions presenting a united front. The subgroup members should meet privately and hash out disagreements among themselves before they meet with the rest of the group so they can agree on a consistent message. The nominal group technique. Members work individually in each other's presence by writing their ideas. Then members record the ideas on a chart, discuss them as a group, and finally evaluate them by ranking procedure until members reach a decision. The first one, to help them reach a decision, the problem, situation, or question is stated clearly and concisely. Elements of the problem of a question are described, and discrepancies between what is desired and what currently exists are explained, often by a member of top management. Care must be taken not to mention possible solutions. Group members can ask questions to clarify and add information about the problem. If the group is large, it may be subdivided into smaller groups, each with its own facilitator. The second suggestion on the nominal group technique. The coordinator asks participants to generate a list of features or characteristics of the problem or question. The third, the coordinator gives the group 5 to 50 minutes to work silently. Each person brainstorms as many solutions or answers to the original question as possible. Each suggestion is listed and recorded in a round-robin fashion. The fourth, each suggestion is listed and recorded in a round-robin fashion on a chart visible to all members. The first person gives one idea for his or her list, and the recorder lists it. Then the next person gives one idea, and so forth, until the master list is complete. The fifth suggestion, members clarify the items but do not yet evaluate them. The group discusses each item on the list, but only to clarify or elaborate on it. Any member may ask what particular item means, but arguing, criticizing, and disagreeing are not permitted during step 5. Step 6, each person chooses his or her top ranking items. The easiest way to do this is give each person a set of stickers to place next to his or her most important items. Sometimes participants are instructed to place one sticker by the 5 most important. Other times, participants are told that they can dispute their stickers however they want, including placing all 5 on one item. Then the items with the most stickers become the agenda items for the group's discussion. Part 7. The group engages in full discussion of top-ranked items. This discussion should be freewheeling and thorough evaluation discretion. Critical thinking, disagreement, and exhaustive analysis of the items are encouraged. 8th, finally, a decision is reached. Often the discussion is steps, and 7 steps will produce a consistent decision. On the last part of my assignment, steps and principle negotiation. 1. Separate the people from the problem. Don't make a disagreement turn personal. Step 2. Focus on interests, not positions. Step 3. Invent new options for mutual gains. Use creativity at inventing alternatives. And 4th, insist on using objective criteria.